The whiplash of a depleting magnetic field, record rains, record cold, record heat coming at Christmas, 25, 30 above the normal. The complete opposite of what we're seeing now. Atmospheric rivers continue pummeling massive floods across the Middle East, deserts turning into forests again. You ready for a new year? And waking up to a cold morning, not my house, but a beautiful glimpse at nature. Yeah, they're cold too. They're looking for food. Please protect our wildlife if you can. Temperatures as of yesterday coming into this morning, wind chills pushing, minus 30 Fahrenheit or sub-zero temperatures, 30 below. Snapshot in time. And, when we look at daily low temperatures, December 15, 16, Key West almost 70 degrees, but up near the Canadian border, the sub-zero, 24 below zero Fahrenheit. That's a huge temperature swing. But looking into the low temperature anomalies, this is the difference between what the 30-year average temperatures are from 1991 to 2020. They have that as an average on this day as the average temperature. But this is how far below that temperature is. Look at some of these 30 degrees below the 30-year average, and that's cold anyway because you're in winter up in these northern plains states anyway, getting up into the, chilly Great Lakes area. Burr is all you can say. This is just the daily low temperatures in Fahrenheit, and you can see that, minus 20. Those are sub-zero temperatures, 20 degrees Fahrenheit below zero. Now, we won't normally see this until, late January kind of temperature, so we're definitely at least a month ahead. Now, here's something interesting, too. Frost quakes, they're trying to explain how you're going to hear crazy, unusual, not so much booms, but cracks and breaks and things that sound like the earth is turning into an ice crystal. It happens when groundwater freezes rapidly. Okay, well, it's been frozen, it's been unfrozen, and supposedly this is such an unusual event that we get the explanation in advance of the loud booming sounds, similar to thunder. Well, I don't know, maybe this would be a frost quake, something hitting the ground this hard here. Boom. For me, that's a frost quake. Now, it's so interesting. They're trying to say something so far out of the ordinary that the ground is going to freeze so rapidly, like the day after tomorrow, that it's going to start making thunder sounds. You tell me, are they gaslighting us? Or is this truly happening in a day after tomorrow fashion with a depleting magnetic field? That thing's so far out of the ordinary now have to be explained because it will spook the masses. That's a large, not a single state in a single city area. Did you notice how many hundreds of miles wide that was? So something so bizarre in our atmosphere to take liquid water into a frozen form so quickly, even underground, that it will crack and make sounds that are unknown to most anybody who's been alive for probably less than 400 years. You'd have to be 400 years or older, getting up past, I wouldn't say Methuselah age, but half the age of Methuselah to understand this type of sounding coming from instant freezing of water in our top few feet of the earth right there under your feet. Something very strange is going on here. So I'll bring you to the December 1st to December 10th. Again, this is the 30-year average, and you'll see most of it is well below. They should put a WW there, well below. And then we jump up to 15th, which is today, and we'll see that persists. That same pattern is locking in. I mean, it got down to 7 degrees Fahrenheit here last night where I live in Tennessee. Off to Bend Knoll here, lower atmospheric temperatures, and you can see how that red just sticks around, that blob that is going to encompass your Christmas Day forecast here. Incredible heat. There will be very little white Christmas for anybody around the U.S. And that flip-flop from this type of extremes into record-breaking heat from record-breaking cold in just a week. Again, not normal, not usually seen in winter. But when you do get over to this is degrees Celsius, so it's a little bit wider than it is on Fahrenheit. So it's darker, what it starts to turn a little bit brown, that's 16 to 20 degrees Celsius, which is near 30 degrees Fahrenheit on the difference in the temperatures there. As we wrap up 2025, it's a good time to slow down and reflect on the year. If there's one thing we all learned, it's that uncertainty isn't temporary. It's the world we live in now. Waiting for things to go back to normal isn't a plan. It's a gamble. For over a decade, my friends at Noble Gold Investments have helped Americans protect themselves and the people they love by diversifying their wealth in gold and silver. No one knows what 2026 will bring, but one thing's for sure. In an uncertain world, real wealth isn't digital, it's physical, it's lasting, it's yours. So when you're sitting around the table this holiday season, surrounded by family, remember the best gift you can give isn't under the tree, it's peace of mind. So before the year ends, take one smart step toward a safer future. Visit 2030gold.com and get your free wealth protection kit today. That's 2030gold.com. And this holiday season, if you open a qualified account with noblegoldinvestments.com, they're going to send you 10 of these 1-ounce silver rounds. Holiday season's greetings. And on the back, we have the Happy Snowman, which melts at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Silver, 1,763 degrees. It's metals. Your stockings are waiting for these. Head to 2030gold.com. Click on that link in the description box below. And then I was looking at the date up there. You see December 27th at timestamp at the top. And then move forward. And the entire U.S., lower 48, even up into Canada, is pushing some of these same temperatures of, and I'm going to say 15 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal temperatures. We swing over to Europe and we start to see the same thing. Just in a couple days from now, they're going to get it first. So again, I would ask you, what is creating these not only locking and blocking stratospheric warming events? That's the reason we got the cold, is the high pressure system locked up in there and displaced all the cold. I've done 2 or 3 videos on that previously. The Economist magazine cover 2026 shows something circular locked in over the North Pole. That could be the new established magnetic field where a charged current line is coming down perpetually, attaching to there, which would displace all of our weather. I wouldn't say permanently, but I would say for far longer than a season. If that truly is what they're showing us, a new punch through electrical connection point, then this is going to be what we're going to get. Extremes on either side so far out the norm that, can you define that pattern is the question. We've seen it through history. This is the thing that upsets civilizations and food production and the rise and falls and collapses of great civilizations is connected to this pattern that locks in to the point where nothing's determinable. You don't know the proper planting and harvesting dates. I think we're getting a glimpse of this right now, and this is why your world's changing. You're being forced to change, because when food prices get incredibly expensive because of this change, that in itself is a catalyst to everything through history in the last 8,000 years that has been known about. I wouldn't even, well, from tribes to cities to societies in general, countries or societies, subsets of that, and then the wider worldwide or continental civilizations have all been wiped back by lack of food, non-reliable plant harvest date. Food production is the thing that, through history, is the one thing you can point to. It always results in wars and in the economy collapsing and migration of people. And it's the one thing that starts, it's the catalyst, it's the first thing. You see all these lead signs up into it. But once it rolls over, then absolutely, once the masses wake up and see it, then you get that panic moment. And on to another strange and unusual. This is the storm front coming in Washington state area. Been following this one for a minute there, but the record floods across anywhere from British Columbia all the way down through Washington, Oregon. It's just, it looks like a tsunami had rolled over and then pulled back. So in reference right here, the precipitation in the last 7 days, you're looking at what, 20 inches in those areas that are pink and purple. I mean, that's a lot to run off anyway in saturated soils. And then it just, where can it go? It pools. So you see multi-state area clips over into Canada as well. Now, this is that moisture plume that was 3,000 miles long from far over toward Indonesia coming straight in to the West Coast there. Bringing a graphic on this so you can watch how it whipsaws and then actually locks in and focuses all that energy in the same exact place. Now, at the same time this is happening, the inversion of temperatures is locking this, what they call radioactive fog, into California, where there's this pressure difference and temperature difference where that fog cannot burn off. It is continually suppressed down into the valley with cooler temperatures. And it sort of dissipates at times during the day, a little bit on the edges, but it has been locked in like this for over a week. Over a week. And this is something all strange as well. We're seeing the pink fogs in Florida, that those fogs have transited all the way up through North Carolina. And we got this, radioactive fog warnings. I encourage anybody to look out. They put out a huge amount of warnings about this fog, the density, the pollution in it. And they called it a radioactive fog. I don't know why, unless there was truly something in it. But then that fog events reported across the world, this weird fog. And the reason I would say this is, you go back in time, which I'm a fan of doing. If you look, you'll find an era in history. It's called the Justinian Plague. Now, during this time, prior to that, what was talked about? The exact same thing. Summer came in the middle of winter. Winter came in the middle of summer. It wasn't a year without a summer. It was a complete flip-flop, and they started to lose crops. And the lost crops led to less nutrition, which weakened people. And then suddenly thereafter, they had this worldwide, well, at that time, continental, which I'm sure was a worldwide. It was reported all the way from Asia, clear back into Africa, over into Europe, the fog events just prior to the Justinian Plague. And then there was an onset. So I'm wondering, is this related to somehow? This is an exact replica of what we saw going back in time again. It's almost like these fingerprints across history here. And that was the year 541 AD to 549. So those 8 years of time related to some fog event or dissipation of gases from the earth. But here's interesting, 535 AD. This was the time when there were multiple VEI-8s that occurred across the planet, where they had not a year without a summer, but better part of a decade without a summer. Those two overlapped on each other. And that's the most interesting thing. 535 AD, multiple eruptions. They said it was, equatorial, and then like a 10-degree eruption. It was hard to breathe around the planet anyway. There was a lot of sulfur dioxide. And then this fog events occurs. And then we get into the Justinian Plague. So those are, right in order like this. So I think there's something to it. That'd be a 1,500-year event. So you look at some of these extremes happening across vegetative zones too, with more moisture, precipitation, rainfall. There would have to be more than a 400-year cycle. It would definitely have to be a multi-thousand year or 1,500 year. That fits right in there too, in terms of great changes. But are we ready for this as our world? I definitely don't think so. But the politicians shall scramble to control the changes. Now check out these whipping winds here. This is Saudi Arabia. Yeah, right near Mecca. Jeddah area in Saudi Arabia. Now they've been having massive rain events again, which signals that something is changing in the arid areas of the coastal Red Sea. Eritrea and the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. All these areas are becoming incredibly wet again. It's like the moisture pattern used to glide by these mountains and didn't really catch and drop a lot of rain, but it seems like whatever's changing is forcing the systems directly into the mountains, and it's dropping out vast, vast amounts of rainfall in Saudi Arabia. This is happening across the entire Middle East. So when you look at it in context, when was the last time this place was milk and honey forest, do you think? Because this amount of rainfall, it should go somewhere. There is drainage in these cities. These are major cities in Saudi Arabia. It's not like it's just out in the middle of the desert somewhere. Major metropolitan areas. Then if we go to Algeria, the same thing, in Tunisia and Morocco, all experiencing record floods in the same exact time that Saudi Arabia is experiencing this, and we are getting this incredible cold event and a reversing warm event all at the same time. Now check out the size of the hail that's coming down the forefront of some of these storms. Desert, interesting. And that's why I say milk and honey, because we need to go back in time some 6,000 years until we find the pyramids were surrounded by vegetation, not desert. But the collapse and the ruins of such areas as well. It's just a trip through history. We're going through this cycle again. Now, how would they have dealt with it when it was beginning to dry out is the question. Because going from a wetter environment into a drier environment would be not so nice either. But we look at the South Atlantic anomaly expanding. So that's 10 years of data. And you can see the expansion. If it does another 10 years, it'll be right over toward Australia, well over Africa. And if it expands another 10 years, it's going to be well over Africa. Then what? We see these aurora coming in, unusual aurora every time the sun even takes a breath, not even a sneeze or a cough. I mean, the most minor geomagnetic storms and CMEs will just rip off and just glide through our electric circuit across the planet, over energizing, which is possibly another reason all these things are happening. With the weakened magnetic field in the southern hemisphere, if you get that electric current, charge can punch in through where there's no protection, none. That's pretty much a zero field down there. That electric current can punch through and start running through Earth's electric circuit. And again, if you know anything about electricity, when you get too much of it, what happens? Oh, it starts blowing things out, capacitors rupturing. What happens when areas that are not highly charged become incredibly excited, not to the point of overcharge, but up to maximum capacity? You got to think about areas that are in some sort of stasis along, when you're up about 100 miles in the ionosphere, there's like a base that it comes to some sort of equilibrium. And after those solar storms pass, magnetic field repairs itself. And then that charge is dissipated up through the layers, F4 all the way up. That is coming rolling through, and that's holding charge in there that has never been seen, at least in our modern lifetimes, or even instrumentation going back 200 to 300 years. You got barometric pressure, thermometers, that sort of thing. Well, I mean, you can see sunspots measured through telescopes. But we're seeing in the modern day era, why is it that electronics are failing every time we get a CME come in? Why is it that there's so much difficulty with air travel these days? Navigation's off, everything. Anything that navigates by magnetic fields, beaching or dying. There's something significantly wrong that is on the southern part of our planet that is allowing an electrical charge to come and really run amok, is the best term. And that is the possibility of a new punch-through point that they referenced in the 2026 Economist magazine, that they knew there was a new electrical connection point off of not exactly a geographical north, but magnetic north. If that's the case, then we have a dual circuit lining up, which will then, that's going to be something different to contend with. Like, crops will not be grown to the great tonnages that we are used to today. And then that will set off everything else that's ever been set off in history. We're just repeating history. I do appreciate you watching. Hope you got something out of the video. Alfa Vedic Dental Solutions, holistic dental care, alfavedic.com/civilization. Please support our sponsor, keeps us on air. And that dental tooth scrub, oh man, your teeth are going to be squeaky clean. I love that one. Just gives you such the amazing mouthfeel and just the squeakiest clean teeth you've ever had. And Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Sign up for our show notes. It's our live show talking about some of these same issues, 2 hours at a time. Throw your name, email in there. We keep it private. And send you the 10 bullet points that we talk about through the entire 2 hours to just consolidate that so you can get a quick read, start the conversation with others. And the links for Alfa Vedic and the sign up for the show notes are in the description box below the video. Click and go. I will see you next time. Bye for now.